Hi, we're Ralph and Lonnie from Planetary Calendar, and this year I am joining Ralph in the Chinese New Year forecast.
Which is a joy, because usually I have to do it by myself, but this year Lonnie said, "Oh, I'll help," which is wonderful. Her insights are...
I don't usually want to stick my 2 cents in and let you really wax and wane on your interpretations
but this year you wrote the forecast for the calendar, so you had to look at these charts.
And also it is going to be the year of the fire horse.
Yes.
And the Chinese Asian interpretation of that year historically is one of profound change. Now, of course, change is something that we understand and we're used to, and we kind of accept either grudgingly or not. But profound change is something else again. And that's what this year is purported to be. And we'll look at the charts and let you know what we think.
And considering that basically the Lunar New Year chart, which is the new moon in Aquarius, is the seed chart for the year. It basically says, okay, this is where we're starting from. This is where we're going from here. Everything else is based, starts with the seed. So
when Ralph says the seed, he literally means that the seeds in the ground are switching over from their dormant stage to actually start to grow. And even though it's not visible right away until spring actually springs, it is a point where there's a big shift in the energy. And for us as humans on this earth, it's a good starting point, much better than an arbitrary January 1st or any of the other dates.
Or even the spring equinox, the vernal equinox, many people forecast from there. But in truth, this is the point where the energy shifts. The energy is centered in the center of the earth, and now it will start to rise. So it truly gives you a great picture for the year. And we've been doing this forecast since
20 years, at least.
Over 20 years. It's more like 20, since we started them in the late 90s.
Right.
So they're wonderfully accurate.
When we were 2. Yes,
exactly. So what's interesting in terms of, Lonnie said, a profound year, what's interesting is that the Lunar New Year this year is happening at an eclipse. It's happening at the new moon eclipse.
Don't get profounder than that.
So that's pretty dramatic. And then the second eclipse will be on March 3rd. So that period of time between the 26th and not the 26th,
the 17th.
17th, I'm thinking the year before. And March 3rd is going to be a bit intense. But it's also interesting that, in the United States, we know we've been going through uproar. It's just been a chaotic year. Well, this eclipse is happening at sunrise in Washington, D.C. So that's
a new dawn, a new day, huh?
And realize the Julian calendar, for instance, was actually started at an eclipse at sunrise in Rome. It was actually started from there. So in many ways, it is the beginning of kind of a new time. But the eclipse line runs from all the way from Washington, like New York, Washington, D.C., all the way down the coast, right through the southern part of Florida. So it comes down in a very, very straight line. And it's happening very, very late in the sign. Remember, this is the new moon in Aquarius, but that can be over a period of about 30 days. But it's happening at what?
The 17th. It's almost the last point, latest point that the Chinese New Year can occur, the new moon in Aquarius, or the new moon in Aquarius. And I just want to say one thing quickly from my logical mind here. If you compare 2025 to 2026, and we can make that comparison better now because we are through 2025. It was the year of the wood snake.
Yes.
And just in the simplest terms, wood is solid.
Yes.
Snakes kind of not slow moving, but they're earthbound. And, the year that we're coming up on is the fire horse. So you can see this is going to be very different than the energy of the wood snake.
Well, it has legs, first of all.
Fire burns wood. So to me, right away, I get the symbolism that a lot of the old structures of last year will be burned away or consumed to make way for something new.
Yes.
And what's this something new? The snake has sort of a limited territory and moves around in a certain deliberate way. The horse gallops.
Yes.
This is going to be, fasten your bootstraps and hold on to the reins tight, because this is a year of, like they said, profound change. And these years always build on each other like that.
Exactly. And then also, the other thing that's also in Aquarius with the sun and the moon and relatively close to it is Mars. With Mars transits, like, bam, Mars is here. And then Mars is conjunct Vesta, and Vesta is one of the brightest of the asteroids. And whenever Mars is very close to Vesta, it makes Mars burn hotter. And they're conjunct, they're in the same degree. On the other side of the sun and moon, in Pisces, you have Venus is there, which is a very powerful position. It's a position of great compassion, a great visualization, great imagination. And it's conjunct the asteroid of Diana, Pallas Athena. It's the asteroid of the warrior goddess. So you have Mars on one side, and you have Pallas on the other side, in a very feminine sign. So you have this tremendous, with Vesta, you have this tremendous sense of a lot of feminine energy, but a lot of power at this, and it's all lined up with this eclipse running down the East Coast. Now, there's a whole bunch of these rising lines because there's so many planets clustered together. Just in Aquarius, you have Pluto, Astrea, Vesta, Mars, and the Sun and the Moon. And then in Pisces, you have Pallas Athena, Venus, and Mercury. So you have all these lines running down at an angle on the East Coast, which means last year we said it was going to be just a year of extreme law cases, of court cases.
Legal battles.
And we predicted that, we forecast that, and that's exactly what has happened. There's been hundreds, thousands of cases at this point on the East Coast. The West Coast, we said it was going to be pretty much in the clear, which it has generally been kind of, compared to the East Coast. This year, once again, you have the same thing happening, all these lines, but it's even more intense this year along the East Coast. And once again, the West Coast, what it has primarily out there is a Jupiter line, a Jupiter descending line. Well, where's Jupiter? Jupiter's over Asia, over Japan, China, Korea. So I think you're going to see the West Coast making a lot of partnerships. These descending lines are about partnerships with Asia. I think you're going to see a lot of markets opening up on that side and partnerships forming with Asia during this coming year. But the East Coast is going to it's going to be very intense this year. One of the things we've always tried for years, we would read the forecast of the old astrologers, medieval, and they'd be just horrific. It was like plagues and pestilence and such. You'd say, oh, well, our forecasts are not that mean. But we've actually found in recent years that sometimes if we make a mistake, it's that we underestimate how bad it's going to be, which is, sorry, but we're optimists. What can we do? But we underestimate how bad it's going to be. But I think you're going to find on the East Coast, there's going to be a lot of chaotic changes. And like Lonnie's saying, the beginning of a whole new era, because the other big player is that Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the sign of new beginnings, and they're conjunct. And realize Neptune it takes 180 years for Neptune to go through the 12 signs. So since Neptune's actually was only, I was going to say invented, discovered in like the late 1800s. So this, I think, might be the first time that it's coming around to that point. And it's interesting, people born in like 1951, 52, they have Neptune and Libra. So now, because of the orbit, they're going to have Neptune being opposite their natal Neptune, which is going to be very interesting.
Well, I think when we have the oppositions, you know how I feel about oppositions, they give you an opportunity to learn and expand yourself by looking at the complete other side of something.
Right.
So Neptune has to do with inspiration and, idealism and all of those types of things. And it gives you kind of another view to.
But Neptune also has a tremendous amount to do with like how we use power. And if you look back in the time when Neptune was actually discovered and the signs it was in, it was during the period of time of a lot of advances in chemistry and use of petrochemical and different types of fuels. So I think we're coming into another period with Saturn and Aries. Saturn and Aries, it's about individuals, people increasingly saying, if I put solar panels up here, I don't have to pay the utilities. If I have a windmill, I don't have to do this. If I'm by the ocean and I can somehow either use currents, I think we're going to see a lot of new inventions related to power. I think it's going to be happening on a global scale. I think the younger generation they're already taking global warming, global climate change really serious. I think we're going to see an acceleration of that, despite the fact that some people...
If you can imagine that, but yes.
I think it's going to continue to accelerate even more so. So these advances in how we use energy with Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, because Saturn is structure, Saturn is infrastructure. Neptune has a lot to do with how energy is used. So I think we're going to see a lot about, and it's in Aries, which is about the individual, and it's Mars in Aries, or Mars in Aquarius, right? Which is about, like, Mars in Aries is the inventive farmer, the inventive irrigator, the person who says, why do we need to pay for electricity when we have all the sunlight? Why do we have to pay for electricity when we have all this wind? Why can't we use more efficient systems? And I think we're going to see a big movement towards people saying, we could do this more locally. For years, every town used to have its own power station. They would have their own little power station. And it was only later on that the big companies started saying, no, we're going to have one power station here. We're going to cover a whole region. And they got away from these little power stations. But in many areas, a smaller power station or a more localized system, like a solar system for a community, could do a tremendous amount for them and protect them from catastrophes, like when a fire goes through and it takes out the system. We've lost power here multiple times.
Sure. Yeah, and that's getting more and more with the solar activity that we have, which again is a highlight of this time period of the fire horse.
Yes.
And of course, it's not lost on me, and hopefully not on anybody else, that this new moon in Aquarius happens in Aquarius.
Yes,
and Aquarius is the sign of globalization, broader community, is very highly connected with these electronics and things, the innovations and all the technology that we have around us. And this just gets, further and further escalated as we go through this age of technology, this technological age. I mean, there's so much talked about the age of Aquarius and the age of Pisces and, what age are we in or anything like that. And it's not like there's a point of demarcation that says one foot is in the age of Aquarius and one's in Pisces. But the fact is that they all build on each other. And with this energy has been building and building since technology began. I mean, when did the internet start?
Right.
In 2002 or 2006 or something like that. I mean,
no, that was
not the internet. Social media.
Right.
And that's when it came to most people's minds. Yeah. I mean, when the internet began, there were people who adopted that. But once it grew to the point where it was social media, it had just exponentially exploded the
expected people to be informed.
And its influence on people's lives.
I mean, one of the reasons people go to social media these days is to get the news that they can't find through other sources, because those other sources are coming through commercial channels. Instead, there's all these independent news people who are reporting on what's happening in their area. And
then you make connections that you never would have been able to make IRL. Yeah. And you find the people that you trust and you follow them. And that's could be good, could be bad kind of news kind of thing. Because if you pick the one, that is the most upright and upstanding and truthy, truthy, right. Stephen Colbert gave us that word.
Yes.
Or if you pick someone who's, looking at the dark side or, is more skeptical or more doom and gloom or survivalist or, whatever adjective you're looking for, you're going to have different points of view.
But I will tell you that one thing that you're going to see that Europe is really in charge this year. All the major planets, or a number of the major planets, are all over Europe. England is kind of the outlier a little bit because Mars goes up through England. So there's going to be some crazy stuff happening. And that's
the only one. But then Sun, Moon, Pallas, Venus, the North Node, and Mercury are all planets that are have lines going directly through Europe.
Yes.
And that constitutes the EU.
Right. Exactly.
From the sun to Mercury.
Right.
Mars is over in England. Did England leave the EU?
Yes.
So they've lost some of their support, you might say, because these other planets are all working sort of together. Exactly. And Mars is kind of an outlier there with Vesta, patience that Vesta brings.
But last year in 25, when we looked at the chart, the United States had no major planets overhead. And it had a Uranus icy underneath, which meant that the United States was going to lose a lot of influence. And we've seen that happen. We've had the fastest drop in the loss of what's called soft power in history in the past year. And it really dropped. Well, this year, we're in the same situation. There's no major planets over the United States. There's some asteroids. There's a Uranus icy line. Uranus tends to be disruptive. So at home, once again, it goes right down the middle of the country, right over New Orleans. So once again, there's going to be the strong sense of changes at home, but having very little leverage worldwide. A great deal of the leverage happens either from Europe or from Asia. And Australia kind of gets wound up into that. And I believe
I find it interesting that in the center of Europe last year, in the wood snake, a major line that went through that area was a Chiron MC line. And don't you think, Chiron is the wounded healer and the knowledge seeker? Yes. That was a whole year of kind of either healing wounds or getting wounded or all of that with, it goes to learning the lessons that you then have to teach and enact. Well, when you come to this year, of the fire horse, that's when you have all those tools and support to kind of implement what you learned with that wounding and healing. I love to watch the flow of the planets. I call it the dance of the planets because as you look at these cycles, whether it's a yearly cycle, a monthly cycle, a quarterly cycle, or whatever, call me an accountant. You get to see that one builds on the other. Yeah,
this year really, France, Germany, and Italy are really going to be taking the lead, globally speaking. The sun moon is right over France. The Pallas Athena is up over Germany and Italy. Sounds like Giorgio Meloni. And Venus goes right down through Italy as well, right through Rome as well, with the nodal axis there as well.
Oh, I thought that's Pallas.
That's Pallas, but Venus is to the right.
And Venus is right by there.
It's right there. So really gets a tremendous amount of leverage. Spain and England, like I said, Lonnie said, it's the Aries Vesta line, so that's kind of going it on their own to a certain extent.
Mars Vesta.
The good news, or the potential good news, is that this year we have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries goes down through Gaza, Israel, and it goes right through Ukraine. So this is really the people starting to say we need to be adults here. We need to start rebuilding. We need to start visualizing
Saturn,
where we're going in the future.
And then Neptune, right?
And there's no major. The only major line that goes up close to Moscow is Pluto, but there's nothing there. On the other side is Australia. It's an asteroid. But so they've really. I think Moscow is losing a lot of leverage.
And these lines go up through this area in a vertical line. But it's just interesting to note, and I'm going to ask Ralph what he thinks the commentary on that is, but all of these planets are below the ecliptic, so they're below the equator.
Yes.
Except for Jupiter and who's blue guy?
Uranus.
This one. Oh, yes, Uranus.
Yeah.
It's the wrong color. I have to fix that.
Yes.
On my map, it shows the color for Jupiter.
Yeah.
But so it's Uranus. And I know that I don't confuse Jupiter and Uranus.
And Uranus is right over Bangladesh. So I'm kind of a little worried there with, and it's in Jupiter, or Uranus is in the part of the heavens where you have the Pleiades and then after that the Hyades. And so I'm a little concerned about them having a lot of flooding this year.
But also the body of land that is closest to where Jupiter was literally overhead or will be overhead at this point is Japan.
Yes.
And Jupiter for Japan looks to be a very propitious aspect. I mean, that's a benevolent
especially in the sign of the
indicator
crab.
for Tokyo in the year of the fire horse.
Yeah, exactly. And then it goes down through Australia as well. It looks like there could be quite a bit of investment in the Australian wine region. Last year,
it goes right through the wine region.
This year in 25, there was a Mars line running through there, and they had horrible fires. They've had horrible fires again. But in the coming year, it's Jupiter, so it looks like a lot of investment coming back to Australia. And like I said, once again, it touches the eastern coast of China to a certain extent. The other one that's I'm trying to think who else is going on too, is Brazil is doing quite well. They have who is that? Who are you? That's the IC Jupiter, the Jupiter IC line. So Brazil is going to be opening up a lot of doors once again with Asia as well. That's a Jupiter IC. Yeah.
See, your colors are different than mine. Yeah. We're going to have to
unify,
conform this.
So expect that Brazil's in a rise right now, but with that Jupiter line there connecting them to Asia, and many people say with this crazy stuff going on with the global economy right now, two of the big winners have been China and Brazil, because Brazil is such a powerhouse. Remember, more people live in Brazil than all the rest of South America together, and it's a massive. It's a powerhouse agricultural powerhouse, and manufacturing as well.
Right.
So it's going to be a chaotic year. Like I said, on the West Coast, it's going to be very different from on the East Coast. But expect a lot of chaos on the East Coast.
That Jupiter on the West Coast, I think, is just indicative of some of the maybe not founded right now, seemingly unfounded optimism that we're finding here on this West Coast, in the midst of all the turmoil that's going on and change there. And I think one of the reasons is that California, Oregon, Washington, they have sort of a reputation of embracing change before change happens.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They're always like living on the brink of something new. And I mean, for good or ill, I mean, they just always looking forward. And so they're used to this energy, and that gives them an optimistic outlook.
It's also the fact that, remember, this is the United States of America. It's actually a group of 50 independent states that work together. People forget that when we've done actually the charts, we use a completely different chart for the United States than most people. Most people use the Sibley chart because we think it's just wrong. But we use a noontime chart, and in that chart, it has Libra rising, the partnership, the United States. The word united basically is a Libran word. And when you look at that chart and watch the forecast of that chart, boy, that makes sense. I mean, you really see the events there. California and the West Coast states were formed much, much later than on the East Coast. The East Coast are coming up to the 250 years, and 250 years is a very difficult time for most major countries. The United States,
just in history.
In history, exactly, historically.
Whether it's the United States or another country, a culture,
yes. And so the first 13 colonies, they're really feeling this. But California was founded in 1850. It's not even close to 250.
Right.
And of course, Hawaii and Alaska are even later than that. So California and the West Coast are not coming up on the same cycle at the same time. And remember, too, California is the goddess state, the Virgo state, the goddess of the harvest, where the United States is the crab. And the United States has been going stuff because it's had a Jupiter return, Jupiter in the sign of the crab. Whenever you have a Jupiter return, it's actually difficult. People think, oh, this will be a great year. No, it's like a growing year. And when you grow, what you get is growing pains. Mm-hmm. If you remember that. Oh, why does everything hurt? You're growing.
And we can't help but apply strict logic to just about everything that we do, whether it's feng shui or it's astrology. And it's not lost on us that, the California is a Virgo state, and she's the goddess of the harvest, and doesn't California feed most of the rest of the country?
Almost all the wine. Yes.
Right. And then when you see that you've got Cancer as the founding sign for the East Coast, the crab there. I mean, we remember crabbing on the shores of New Jersey, and it's just appropriate that these things line up in a very logical way to give you the difference between the two coasts. One of many differences between the two coasts.
Many differences, but so the year of the fire horse, as the Chinese like to call it. It's going to be a very, very interesting year. It's good. Like I said, we've told you the zones. It's not surprising so many people move to Europe, because Europe is really, really taking leadership at this time. The East Coast is going to be very chaotic. That's going to extend not all the way to the Midwest, but a bit of the ways there. The West Coast is going to be feeling very, very different. In the Asia, Japan is going to really seem like be taking leadership, but Japan, China, and Korea are going to really be taking leadership along with Australia. Brazil is going to be doing great, partially because of its partnerships with Asia. India is kind of in the clear. Last year it had a lot of growth this year, except I would watch out over by Bangladesh
for the flooding.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what's going on. There's always more. You can always go look at the charts yourself. I mean, why not? But it's a very powerful chart. Like I said, we've been using it for years. It's just ridiculously effective. So. Anything else we missed?
This was fun to do this with you. Yes. I always hear you and edit you and prep you and all that, but it's fun to be with you and to be with you.
Yes.
So get ready. Can't say you're not prepared for the year of the fire horse. We wish you all the best.
Yes.
Come see us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel, Planetary Calendar Astrology.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a calendar,
yes,
we still have some left.
We still go to planetarycalendar.com. We still, because you want to know what's going on.
There's a whole lot of 2026 left, so.
Yes, there is.
Thank you.
And be well.